Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome dear learners. This is a video for the subject of education, for the course of Bachelor's in Education and for the paper of Conceptual Foundations of Education. We are going to discuss sociological basis of education, and in this lecture the discussion will be focused on democracy and education. This video lecture is developed by Dr. Iram Khan. The course coordinator and the presenter of this video is Dr. Iram Khan from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. The academic expert or the reviewer of this video is Professor Jasim Ahmed from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. This video is produced under the project DTH Swayam Prabha Channels of MHRD, at present called as Ministry of Education, Government of India. Hello dear students, I am Dr. Iram Khan, Assistant Professor at Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today we are going to have a discussion on sociological basis of education, and in this lecture we will discuss democracy and education. The objectives of this session are to discuss the need of education for democracy, to explain the aims of education in a democracy, and to elaborate the significance of democracy in different aspects of education. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the basics of democracy. We have seen all the basic principles of democracy, and also we have seen the values which are the essential part of a democratic nation. It is only in recent times that democratic principles and values have entered the field of education. Basically, the credit of this revolutionary change goes very much to the American educationist John Dewey, who is an eminent person. He emphasized that in a democratic society, educational planning should be done in such a way that each individual member is made capable of working to shoulder, basically in all aspect of lives, and also to make all the social responsibilities very much efficiently and discharge all those responsibilities or the duties in a very effective and a profitable way. According to John Dewey, education should inculcate in the individuals the sense to welcome the needful changes in the social structure and reorient one's behavior in a very smooth way to the ever-changing social milieu. The impact of this philosophy has brought about revolutionary changes in the thinking about educational planning and schemes of public education, and basically the planning and the public education has begun to emphasize the provisions of the education to the masses or for the masses, so that general people become conscious about their rights, their duties, and also about their individual and social responsibilities, and about their national and international obligations. So in basically if we go ahead and see, the democratic rule is by the people, for the people, and uh, it is basically it should be made to understand their obligations, for making people to understand that what are the obligations, uh, and to discharge their duties in a very intelligent way. In all the democratically ruled countries, more and more emphasis is being laid upon free, compulsory, and universal education. So is our country. And we have also got free and compulsory education with the Right to Education Act and many more other such type of provisions for educating our children in our country. So let us just have a look in a very kind of elaborate way that how education is very much related to democracy and vice versa. So we have to see that what are the impact of democratic tendency in education and how it is evident on the different type of elements. So we will be discussing that how democracy in education is basically established and how it plays a very important role. So the first point which I'm going to discuss is the provision of equal opportunities and recognition of individual differences. In a democratic setup, each child is a sacred and valuable entity of the society. Every child is basically considered. So, um, basically, equal opportunities are made available to one and all for their fullest development. In this connection, the principle of individual differences is given proper recognition, and therefore each child receives proper support according to the fullest. And basically this support is given to actually make the child develop the capabilities according to his or her interests, aptitudes and capacities, so that the full development, the fullest extent of development in this individual can be attained. Then the next point is universal and compulsory education. In democracy, the reins of government remains in the hand of the people. Basically, it's a government which is ruled by people. So in this way, common people must be so educated that they develop themselves as responsible and dynamic citizens who are conscious of their rights and duties, fully conversant with their national and international obligations, well aware with the government procedures and administrative processes. So this is possible only when a person, basically everybody who is the part of the society, gets proper education. And that's why there are a lot of schemes and plans related to universal and compulsory education which are brought about, which are for the universalization of the compulsory education. So this is the second point. Then we have to see that education should be very much free in nature. So the provision of free education. So the principles of universal and compulsory education involve free education to all, irrespective of their social or monetary status. And that is why education is now regarded as the birthright of each child, irrespective of the color, caste, creed, or gender. In almost all democratic countries, education has been made free up to a certain standard. Like in case of our country, we have seen that up to elementary level or up to the age of 14, we have got the provision of free and compulsory education. So government actually takes the responsibility to educate the children of the age group 6 to 14 years with the Right to Education Act. So, in addition, education of the physically and mentally handicapped is also receiving proper and increasingly effective attention. Basically, now we are talking about inclusion, and this inclusion can be seen everywhere in all the walks of life. Even in case of education, the inclusion is a very key word which is even evident in our new policy of education, which we just have got in the year 2020. Now let us come to the next point, which is provision of adult education. So under the influence of the democratic tendency, in different countries, emphasis is being laid upon adult education. women's education, and education of the mentally retarded or the physically handicapped. So there are a lot of schemes which operate in different countries who are democratic in nature, and because in democracies everybody has the right, so even the deprived section of society is having the rights, and also those who somehow were not able to receive school education when they were young, they also have all rights to attain the basic levels of education, and that's why the provision of adult education is very much there. There are a lot of different institutions, like there are night schools, there are short-term courses, there are different forms of educational institutions, or society has generated a lot of provisions where the adult education can be imparted. Then the next point is the child-centered education. So democratic way of thinking emphasizes the importance of each child as a sacred individuality. And that is why educational schemes and plans are so structured that each child receives full attention and full facilities to develop his or her individuality to the fullest extent. And this is the important reason why education has become child-centered. The next point is methods of teaching. So under the impact of democratic tendency, methods of teaching are undergoing revolutionary changes. Old or the traditional and mass education methods are being gradually replaced by the uh, the newly formulated or those type of teaching methods who are very much individual in nature, or individual attention kind of thing can be provided to the children. So this is something which again can be seen as a very important point, which is a welcome note, where we can find a very kind of good environment where children will be very much conducive towards getting experiences and learning in a very positive way. Then the next point is importance of individual attention. As we have seen just now in the methods of teaching, each child receives individual attention, and devoid of any of the senses which we receive in form of the family background, uh, the child's own interests, likes and dislikes, needs and capacities are fully taken care of in all plans of educational development. The purpose being to achieve the maximum development of the personality of the child. So the focus is on the development only. Then comes the next point, which is social activities. So basically, bookish and academic activities are not overemphasized in schools nowadays, and this is something which you can observe. If you go to a good school, you can find that there are a lot of activities which are other than only those prescribed in the textbooks. So proper attention is paid to social, cultural, and co-curricular activities. Basically, they are made the part of the curriculum itself, so that children develop in a wholesome way and they can gain more and more social experiences, which is going to help them out in the development of the personality. Basically, the totality of experiences is going to give a confidence which is going to help them in developing their personality in a very positive way. Then comes the next point, which is student unions. So student unions and student welfare associations are formed in institutions to promote student welfare in all spheres, with the aim to achieve balanced, dynamic, efficient, and socially motivated personalities. Basically, these things, if they are brought together in a positive way, even leaders and those who can lead the society can be formed. Then comes the next point, which is respect of teachers' personality. Democratic philosophy respects teacher as a very dynamic and effective agency of social change for social progress. Basically, teacher is a very important person in a democracy. So teachers are now made to participate more and more in curriculum construction, and educational planning. Side by side, they are allowed to experiment freely in respect of methods, techniques, and devices of teaching, as well as materials which aid teaching procedures and the processes. So nowadays, even teachers go and formulate that what can be the teaching aid, what can be the method in which they are going to transact a lesson in their class. So they have become autonomous, or they have become a little bit liberated or free. So not only this, more and more plans are being laid, and they are worked out for increasing and making them much more professional. The plans are for the professional competency development of the teachers. So in this way, with the increasing competency, it is also going to increase, or it is also going to enhance the respect of the teacher's personality in the society. The next point is that what is the aim of education, or basically what are the aims of education, uh, which are related to democracy. So in a democracy, the aims of education can be considered under different points, and we are going to discuss one by one. So the first point is the development of democratic values. This is the first aim of education in a democracy, development of democratic values. So the success of democracy does not depend upon legislative buildings and massive structures of parliament houses. We have just seen that. But basically, it rests upon the quality of the citizens devoted to democratic values. As such, the prime aim of democratic education is to promote in children a sense of devotion to democratic values. So, bookish knowledge is not going to help. Teaching can achieve this aim unless the children are provided with opportunities to practice democratic norms and standards of behavior. And in fact, a child learns to live democratically by living democratically. So, this is something which is very much gained by experience. And this is why the whole educational setup of a school should reflect the values of democratic philosophy. Then the next point, or the next aim of education in a democracy, can be the development of worthy interests. So this is something uh, which is aiming towards the development of useful and worthy interests in children. Interests form character and enrich a child's life. And that is why the famous educationist Herbert Spencer has insisted upon the fullest development of diverse interests. To achieve this aim, children should be provided with various and varied opportunities to participate in diverse activities and programs in all fields of human life. If a large number of worthy interests are developed in children, they will be happy, well balanced, and efficient as citizens. Then the next aim of education in a democracy is the development of vocational efficiency. For the success of a democratic setup, economic contentment of citizens is very important. And um, you, in a country where a lot of poor people are there, they can become a victim of all kind of allurements, inducements, and exploitation by the resourceful and the powerful. And that is why the third aim of democratic education is to develop vocational efficiency in children, so that they are able to become self-reliant and serve the nation as much as possible. Then the next aim is the development of sound habits. So this is something where we go for the development of sound habits in children. So habits are the sources of good or bad conduct, and that is why education should develop good habits in children from the very beginning to make democracy a successful venture. Now come to the next aim, which is the development of thinking power. So the development of thinking power of children, in fact, is a very important aim. Children of today are citizens of tomorrow, when they will be confronted with all kinds of problems in the political, social, and economic fields. So education should develop in children the capacity to think clearly and take decisions confidently. Then the next aim is the development of social outlook. Development of social outlook basically is something which is again very much important in a democratic education. This aim emphasizes upon the fact that children should be imbued with the sense that they are the integral parts of the society, the welfare of which should be their ideal. Not only this, they should learn to live and die for the nation. So, education should develop this sense of service and sacrifice so that they can become kind of people or citizens who think always about the welfare of the nation to which they belong to. Then the next aim is the development of harmonious personality. A harmonious personality or an individual of an individual or a child into somebody like a child who transforms into a balanced citizen is somehow a very important aim of the um, education in a democratic society. In the modern world of a lot of stress, strain, and a lot of scuffles, a balanced and harmonious personality can only seek and find adjustment with the surroundings, and that is why education should develop character, dynamism, and social outlook for this purpose. Next is the development of leadership. So this is the next aim of democratic education. So uh, basically for this, education should instill in children the leadership qualities from the very beginning. They are the future citizens who will have to shoulder the multifarious duties and responsibilities of their nation in all areas. So their character, the strength of will, insight, courage of their convictions, clarity of thinking and decision making will be the foundations on which the national edifice will go up and up. So this is why the leaders who are born somehow are going to carve the future of our country, and that is why the development of leadership quality is a very important aim of education in a democracy. Then the next aim is the development of national and international feelings. For the success of a democracy, this one is a very important aim. In because we have to make our children to sense the nationalism, to develop the sense of nationalism and devotion to international brotherhood. It may be noted that the two are like the nationalism and the international brotherhood. They are not contradictory. They are very much similar in nature. So they are mutually complementary and supplementary. In fact, a nation cannot exist in isolation, and this is something which can be experienced. We go with mutual coexistence in the world. So all the nations of the world are mutually interdependent, and that is why, and which is very much important for developing a kind of peaceful environment. And education should foster the sense of interdependence, international goodwill, and fellow feeling. Then only the concept of world peace and prosperity will be a reality. Then the next aim is training for citizenship, which is again here is the last aim, and which is very important because we make our children a good citizen or a bad citizen. So this is something which is very much done by the society, and education plays a very important role. So democratic education should impart to children training in dynamic and healthy citizenship. For this, education should instill in children the capacity to understand and solve the diverse problems of the country, the capacity to distinguish between propaganda and reality, the capacity to think and decide about issues, economic efficiency, consciousness of a person's rights and duties, the capacity to shoulder uh, the responsibilities, the development of diverse interests in them, the sense of service and sacrifice. Then what can be done in the leisure hour which is good for them and for the nation itself? The development of human qualities as love, sympathy, fellow feeling, cooperation, sense of nationalism and internationalism, healthy and dynamic outlook about problems, good behavior, and respect for moral values. So, under the different aspects of democracy and education, the important aspect is democracy and curriculum. So, in a democratic country, curriculum construction is done with the purpose of realizing democratic values. And that is why those subjects or like the activities and programs are included in the curriculum which instill and promote healthy attitude, dynamic habits, insight, and understanding so that children are able to lead their successful lives as happy citizens. And here the basis of the education or the curriculum, which is the important aspect here in the imparting of education, the curriculum will be going to have a lot of different features which we are going to discuss one by one. So the first one will be, the first attribute will be, it is going to become very much diversified. So democratic curriculum is diversified to suit the needs of all children with basic differences of interests and aptitude. Classroom activities, games, sports, and other co-curricular activities bear an imprint of variety to suit various needs of children. Then the next point is the achievement of social aims. So when we construct a curriculum in a democracy, it emphasizes on the social aims and values. And if we try to understand it much more properly, the development of social sense in children is basically kept in view. So the student activities and associations, corporate programs, and fellowship programs are very much liberally provided. Then the next point or the next important feature is flexibility. So the democratic curriculum is flexible to accommodate various needs and requirements which are in a state of constant change. A portion of it is made compulsory in the form of core curriculum, and diversified subjects are made optional for children to choose according to their interests and aptitude. Then the next point is the emphasis on local needs. So democratic curriculum is constructed on the basis of local needs and available resources. It may be changed according to the needs of time, place, and local requirements. Then the next point is the provision of vocational needs. So democratic curriculum very well meets the needs of vocations, professions, and economic requirements of a region or the whole country. This enables the country to develop in a very economically sound, or you can say that very confident and economically well versed citizens. Then comes the next point, which is the emphasis on activity. And in democratic curriculum, here the uh, which can be seen as the foundation of an important principle, uh, which comes from learning by doing. So it is very much considered that the practical work and the activities that develop the mind and the body both, and also the intelligence is basically fostered and seen much more important. So rather than enforcing and compelling for only ready-made things, we go for those activities, those experiences which are going to enhance the overall development of a child. Then comes the next point, which is the place for leisure hour activities. So in a democratic curriculum, the provision of relevant and useful activities is also there so that the individual can profitably indulge during leisure time. And that is why the this curriculum ensures the total development of the personality of the children. So what will be the methods of teaching which will be preferred in a democracy? Democratic ideals and values exert a very powerful influence upon the methods of teaching. And we have seen that the individuality of a child is regarded as a sacred legacy in a democratic setup. All methods of teaching are child centered, and they go for like they basically try to throw light on some of the important democratic methods, which can be, the first point can be here, the fundamental principle of democracy, which is basically to get into different activities and the progress. And that is why the old traditional and inactive methods of teaching are discarded, and new dynamic and progressive methods are adopted at all stages of teaching. Then the freedom is considered the soul of democracy. All of those democratic methods give full freedom to children to learn by their own. They go ahead and do experimentation. They do gain all those experiences, and that is why the methods like the Montessori method, the Dalton plan, the heuristic method, laboratory plan, and experimental method are very much considered as the democratic methods in the popular use. And this is something which can be seen in every part of the world. So here the teacher's role can be seen as a friend, as of a friend or a philosopher and a guide. So children are free to plan and structure their own learning activities, and these methods of teaching make children investigators, researchers, and speakers of truth. Then the democratic methods of teaching foster and develop the intelligence of children in all its aspects and to the fullest extent. They are assigned problems which are increasingly difficult and require on the part of the children to exercise their thinking power and capacity to conclude. The progressive development of this capacity makes children confident, self-reliant, possess the possession of keen insight and foresight is also developed, and in when they go on becoming developed or becoming a citizen in later in their lives, these capacities makes them able to solve national and even international problems in all areas and in all spheres of life. Then let us see how discipline is seen in democracy. Discipline is the cornerstone of democracy, but democratic discipline does not believe in repression or compulsion. Basically, democratic discipline advocates self-discipline. In schools where democratic setup is basically followed, uh, there are a lot of different ideas which are emphasized for fostering and developing self-discipline. Let us just have a look on few of those ideas. So in democratic schools, the headmasters or the head teachers or the teachers and the administrators are not basically somebody who is imposing on all those things which are to be done. They are not kind of police officers. Instead, they are friends, philosophers, and guides, and a kind of friendly environment, affectionate behavior is maintained, which is very much important in molding of the behavior of children, and in this way promoting of self-discipline by creating a congenial and cordial atmosphere is basically done. Then, in democratic schools, such activities and programs are structured which cater to the interests and needs of children. This develops self-discipline among children. In the administration of a democratic school, children participate basically they are very much active. They discuss their problems and decide uh, on all those things which they have to do in a very free way. They feel their integral and intimate relationship with the school, and they feel internal kinship with uh, its progress and development. So there is something which is innately developed. and the sense of self-discipline in this way is basically kindled and fostered in a very positive manner. In democratic schools, full freedom is given and opportunities are provided for each and every child, and this is somehow um, going to give opportunities to every child to develop their individuality to their fullest extent. And that is why no problem of indiscipline arises in these type of institutions. In democratic schools, student unions, student parliaments, and all kind of student organizations are encouraged for the benefit and development of the children. They learn self-governance. They go for cooperation. They go for fellow feeling and other human qualities together with qualities of self-discipline and leadership. In democratic schools, the sense of right and duties is instilled in children. They learn self-control through social service and social consciousness. And basically, nothing is imposed from above. Uh, the children discuss, they decide, and they carry out the decisions, and they actually cooperate, and they cordially do all those type of activities in a very cooperative manner, which actually is going to make their personalities the better one, and which is better for the society itself and even for the nation. So in this way, self-discipline is the ethos of democracy. So, what is the role of a teacher? We have just seen some information related to this, but let us just have a better outlook. So, in a democratic setup, a teacher is a friend, philosopher, and guide. This teacher works as a social reformer, and here the teacher should possess some of the qualities. And what are those qualities? Just have a look on those. The first one is the teacher is devoted wholeheartedly to the ideals and values of democracy. He or she should be. This teacher tries to impart the same faith to children through different grounds of persuasion and affectionate rapport. It should not be imposed, like whatever is good for them, it should not be imposed. Basically, a rapport building should be done, and in a very persuasive and affectionate way, things should be taught. Then, the teacher regards every child as a sacred legacy to society. And that's why believing in the principle of individual differences, uh, basically this belief allows every child to develop his or her individuality to the fullest extent according to the own interest, aptitude, and capacities. Then the next point is, in a democratic setup, a teacher lays greater stress upon environment rather than on heredity. And that is why this teacher tries to structure such a wholesome environment for the child that fullest development is naturally achieved. The teacher tries to solicit maximum cooperation from the guardians, parents, and other social agencies for the greatest possible development of children as dynamic and socially oriented citizens of the future. In a democratic setup, each teacher is fully conscious of the rights and duties towards the society. That is why this teacher tries to instill the same sense of responsibility in children, also to make them capable and intelligent citizens of tomorrow. Each teacher is well versed in knowledge of his or her subject and has full academic competency to make children develop their uh, basically the development in physical, mental, moral, and spiritual way, so that they are able to shoulder national and even international responsibilities in in their future. So we can see that all these points are those qualities which we expect in a teacher in a very kind of proper democracy. Let us have a look on the role of school administration in a democracy. So, in a democracy, school administration is based upon democratic principles and democratic values. Such a democratic administration develops children into capable and responsible citizens on one hand, and on the other, they train them as future leaders in all spheres of human activities. And that is why the national development and welfare goes on as a continuous process. If we try to understand this, there can be few elements which are predominant in the democratic setup of school administration. What are those elements? Let us just have a look. So the first element can be that the school organization is based upon democratic spirit. The headmaster, the staff, the students, and the clerical staff all work as a team to run and develop the school to higher and higher levels. The headmaster or the principal and the teachers discuss, decide, and plan all school activities and carry them out into practice as one group of dedicated workers. Then the headmaster or the principal and the management strive to develop the initiative of teachers who receive constant appreciation and reward for their good and devoted work. Supervisors or the higher administrative officers and management personnel, they criticize the work of teachers in a constructive spirit of cordiality and beneficial evolution, so that teachers strive to do better and in this way develop their competency more and more. The principal does not impose the plans upon teachers, like those plans which are developed by him only or her only. So basically, in doing instead of doing this, everything is discussed and decided in the group and carried out with full cooperation, bringing together everybody into the loop. Then mutual relations of the teachers, the HODs or the supervisors, the parents, the guardians, and the social workers or the people from the society are based upon democratic philosophy. So in this way, we can say that uh, the whole administration of the school runs on solid foundations of democratic philosophy, and which is very much required and is a must for the overall development of our children in a very proper way. So with this, now we have reached to the end of the session. Let us just have a quick recap. We have seen here in this session the democracy and the role of education basically in a democracy. So the democratic spirit in education has influenced uh, us in a different way and in many ways. So provisions of equal opportunities and recognition of individual differences, universal and compulsory education, free education, provision of adult education, child-centered education, methods of teaching, importance of individual attention, then social activities, student unions, respect of um, teachers' personality, and even the role of school administration and all are some of those areas in which we can find that how education is having an impact uh, in the democracies or in a democratic environment. Then we have seen the democracy and the aims of education. And we have seen that development of democratic values, then development of worthy interest, vocational efficiency, sound habits, thinking power, social outlook, harmonious personality, leadership, national and international feelings, and the training for citizenship. All these are somehow the aims of education in a democracy. Then we went for the different aspects of education. in a democracy, and we have seen that how the curriculum is formulated in a democracy. We have seen the principles of democratic curriculum, which actually constitute the curriculum, which is diversified, achievement of social aims, flexibility, emphasis on local needs, then provision of vocational needs, emphasis on activity, place for leisure hour activities. All these things are the essential component of democratic curriculum. We saw the democracy and the methods of teaching, and we have seen that Montessori method, Dalton plan, heuristic method, laboratory plan, and experimental methods are the important and at most useful methods of teaching in a democratic setup. And we have also seen that what is the way in which discipline is seen here in the democracies. So we have seen that self-discipline is somehow very much important in our democracy. Then democracy and the teacher. And here we saw that the teacher is like a friend, philosopher, and guide in a democracy. And we have also seen the role of school administration in a democracy. And here we saw that it is based very much on the principle of cooperation, and all the components of the school administration go hand in hand for making the educational setup very much adapted to the democratic values of a human being. So in this way, we have just completed the chapter on democracy and education. These are a few of those references and links which were used while developing this session, and you can also go ahead and study more through these links. I hope that this lesson is going to impart a lot of knowledge to you, and you will become a better citizen in the democracy where we stay, and we cherish our democracy. Thank you so much. Students, you are watching a video on sociological basis of education, and in this lecture we discussed on democracy and education. This video lecture was recorded by faculty at home during the national lockdown period for COVID-19 pandemic using minimal technical resources. Technical errors, if any, are unintentional and may please be ignored. For any queries with regard to this lecture or broadcast, kindly send your email to techsupport@dth.ac.in. Thank you so much.